The Israelis almost exclusively target civilians. It's not that Iran targets civilians, it's Israel that targets civilians. And there are tens of thousands, more than 100,000 dead in Gaza to prove exactly that. Listen, as an American, I want to believe that this was a terrible mistake, but my brain won't allow me to believe that. My brain wants me to believe that either we did this on purpose or the Israelis did it on purpose. It's to traumatize the Iranian people, to take the fight right out of them. I was talking about this on a podcast a couple of days ago, and I said the problem that we're already facing as a country here in the United States is that Donald Trump genuinely believed that as soon as we launched the first missile, the Iranians would be dancing in the streets and the government would fall like a house of cards and everybody would live happily ever after and he would win the Nobel Peace Prize and the Israelis would forever be grateful for our actions. But he was the only person that believed that. Anybody who follows these issues, anybody could have told him, we would not be seen as liberators. We would be seen as invaders and occupiers. Nima, I happened to be in Los Angeles the last couple of days until last night. And the Southern California media keep replaying this demonstration with 200 or 300 Iranian Americans, mostly Jewish, which is quite common in Southern California, dancing in the streets, waving the Shah's flag, waving the Israeli flag. And then our friend Max Blumenthal released a video of one of his journalists interviewing some of these pro-Shah, pro-Israel demonstrators, Iranian American demonstrators, and asking them specifically about the girls that were killed in this strike. And like ghouls, like demons, they say, oh no, that's okay. We're okay with that because, greater good, in the end, it's all going to be for the best. Yeah, it's a shame maybe that these girls were killed, but probably the Iranians did it, but we're okay with it. It's okay to kill children. On the one hand, that is so sick that I don't even have words for it. On the other hand, if you are Benjamin Netanyahu or Donald Trump or Pete Hegseth or Marco Rubio or Itamar Ben-Gvir or any of these other crazy people that are involved, embrace what you believe in. If you're so certain that you're right, embrace it and say, yes, we killed those children. Yes, and we don't apologize. And we're going to kill more children. Own it. At least be honest about it. And they're not even being honest.
John, since the war started, we've seen Iran started with attacking Persian Gulf Arab states and mostly American bases in those states. And how did you find the way that the Iranian military started the war? And the United States, first United States together with Israel strike Iran, and then they came in and strike on Iran. Then we see Iranian attack on Persia, mostly the Persian Gulf Arab states with the American bases. You've been to the region, you know what's going on there. What was the strategy on the part of Iranians with the counteroffensive, if we can put it this way?
I think this was actually a very sophisticated strategy. I was in the Persian Gulf 2 weeks ago. I spent a week in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and then 2 weeks before that, I spent a week in Kuwait. And this was all anybody wanted to talk about. They wanted to know, are the Americans going to attack? And I said, I hate to say it, but I think yes. I said, if there was one thing that I learned in my years at the CIA, it was that if you really want to understand what American military strategy is, watch the movement of American naval vessels. If the United States sends an aircraft carrier with 11 or 12 associated ships. That's an aircraft carrier strike force or an aircraft carrier battle group, or 2 of them, it's because we're serious about attacking. So I told my friends and contacts in the Persian Gulf that, yes, I believe the United States would attack. And they did. Now, the Iranian response has been remarkable. First of all, the Iranians are outgunned. They know they're outgunned. They just don't have the sophisticated, for the most part, hypersonics aside, they don't have the sophisticated technology that the United States and Israel have. But they have these cheap, plentiful, reliable suicide drones. Drones where you don't launch a missile from them, you just strap explosives to them and just crash them into the target. And of course, being drones, you operate them remotely. Well, they're very cheap. You know, you can build one of these for $5,000 or $6,000, $10,000 for a really good one that can go a long distance, like all the way to Israel. It's the future of warfare. It's something that the United States has not fully come to appreciate and understand, but the Iranians do. And so rather than just heave a rocket at Dubai, which admittedly they've done, and they've hit, a couple of hotels, an apartment building, for the most part, they've guided these drones into more sensitive targets. U.S. military bases, U.S. Air Force Base outside of Doha, the headquarters of the Fifth Fleet in Manama, the U.S. Army base in Kuwait, and most importantly, oil facilities in the eastern province of Saudi Arabia. So again, Donald Trump, Benjamin Netanyahu, Pete Hegseth, Marco Rubio, they all believe that as soon as we start hitting Iran, the whole country is just going to collapse. And it didn't. And then keep this in mind. Trump is on right now as we're speaking, and he just said the war could be over soon because it's very complete already. Whatever that means. He just said that. It'll be over soon because it's very complete already. Okay. So with that interruption, keep this in mind. For the United States and Israel to win, they have to completely topple the Iranian government and remove all of their leaders. And we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of people that have to be removed. And when I say removed, I mean likely killed. And then they have to install a pro-American, pro-Israeli government in its place. That is virtually impossible, number one. But number two, for the Iranians to win, all they have to do is survive. That's it. If they can just survive this, they win, Israel and the United States lose. And I think that we're very quickly coming to that. Isn't that funny? This Trump press conference lasted about 60 seconds. He just came to the podium to say, the war could be over soon. It's very complete.
Yeah. John, I think one of the outcomes of this conflict, of this war, it's a war,
yes,
would be how this war can change the face of the Middle East, the face of, the policies makers in the Middle East. Because before we had the conflict in Gaza, majority of the people, the public opinion was against Israel, but the politicians, mostly in the Arab states, were somehow trying to play both sides.
Yes.
But right now with the war in Iran, they see how fragile, how vulnerable they are against a country that can fire back, that can hit them. And we're not talking about it's Iran and Saudi Arabia. Comparing the defense budget of these two countries, Iran is not even comparable to what Saudi Arabia has, 10 times the defense budget of Iran, but they're not capable of defending themselves. This is a huge fragility within a society, that they can buy the arms, but they cannot defend themselves. That's why they need the American base in their country. What is the future for these American bases? Because they were calling Putin, asking him to do something about what is going on. And we learned from Lavrov, from his latest press conference, he said, did you condemn what Israel and America is doing against Iran? So why are you expecting we do something about it? You bought all, you are the main reason of this war happening. What is your understanding of the calculation of these Arab states, the leaders, those decision makers in these countries?
I have to say, they must be very, very disappointed in themselves and very disappointed in the wisdom of this policy, because the whole reason for having the United States in the Persian Gulf in such significant numbers after the liberation of Kuwait in 1991 was so that something like this wouldn't happen, right? If you've got the world's largest Air Force base for the Americans, if you have the headquarters of the Fifth Fleet for the Americans, if you have multiple army bases with 50,000 ground troops for the Americans, and then the Americans can't stop a $5,000 drone from crashing into your luxury hotel or into their own bases. I remember in the days after the 9/11 attacks, President Putin said to President Bush that he was shocked that the Pentagon didn't have any surface-to-air missiles to protect it. Well, guess what? It's almost 25 years later, and we don't have surface-to-air missiles to protect much of anything that we have. So here we are in the Persian Gulf and in an active war zone with bases that have been there for 2.5 decades, 3.5 decades, and we can't even protect them against a $5,000 drone. So the United States is going to have to come up with a serious reevaluation of its military position, its defensive military position, and the countries of the Arab countries of the Persian Gulf are going to have to reassess just how much value added the U.S. military provides if the U.S. can't even protect it.
This is a big sin for this to be launched during Ramadan. My UAE contacts told me yesterday that they sent their ships out of port, not to fight, but just to protect them. We have not seen retaliation from the Arab states yet. And my guess is we probably won't, that they're going to let the US and Israel do their thing with some British air cover, and that's going to be it. Donald Trump said yesterday it's only going to last a couple of days. He lives in a fantasy world if he thinks this is going to last a couple of days. I wouldn't be surprised if there are active US and Israeli hostilities for weeks, but yeah, I could see this lasting for a month. Sure.
I mean, especially if the Iranians bloody the Israelis or our noses in some way that we can't fathom, right?
That's right.
A missile gets through and, I don't know, blows up something that Israel or we care about a lot, and then there's a domestic concern that we can't just let it go.
That's right.
Okay, is Iran actually causing damage anywhere? Even with the numerous missiles fired, it doesn't seem to do much. Is Iran hoping for an off-ramp still? Oh, I'm sure they're hoping for an off-ramp.
The Israelis killed practically everybody. It's not just the Ayatollah, his daughter, son-in-law, and grandson. It's the entire Iranian military leadership was wiped out yesterday. I mean, sure, yeah. I mean, they fired rockets at Jebel Ali, the free port in Dubai. They've damaged Manama and Kuwait airports. They fired a rocket at the Saudi oil fields that was intercepted. A couple of hotels were damaged in Dubai. One rocket landed in Abu Dhabi. There's some damage, but absolutely nothing like what's being inflicted on Iran.
No question. It's definitely a one-way street there when it comes to that. But all they have to do is survive. Divya, do we think hitting Dubai hard would be beneficial for Iran right now because of all the American interests right now?
I think no, and I'll tell you why. Because that's where Iran does its business. Dubai is chock full of Iranian businessmen, and that's Iran's outlet to the Western world. That's how Iran evades sanctions, by having businesses in Dubai. So I think no, hitting Dubai is not going to help Iran at all.
John, during the Iraq War, Bush and Cheney, especially the latter, kept saying, "Oh, we're going to have cheap oil because of this." Turned out it went exactly the opposite way. I think I see a replay here. I think the real damage is going to be economic. I mean, high oil prices means high everything prices This is a president who's trying to fight inflation more than anything else, right? I mean, that's the real risk to him.
That's right. That's exactly right. And it's not like Venezuelan oil is a panacea. It's not. It's filthy. It's heavy. You have to inject it with massive amounts of chemicals to clean it up just to make it into home heating oil. So Venezuela is not going to be the answer to our prayers. Oil prices are going to go up.
Sasan, we get such great questions. Thank you. You guys are great. What do you think is the impact of the death of Khamenei on the future of the regime in Iran? As an Iranian, I'm worried yet another extremist is chosen and the cycle continues on and on. Love the show. That, I think, is exactly what's going to happen.
I absolutely 100% agree. That is exactly what's going to happen. You know, and the thing, too, is that I think that in the West, we seriously overestimated Ayatollah Khamenei's authority. Certainly, he was the final word on religious issues, certainly. But you can take him out and have literally nothing change.
It's like if you killed the Pope.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
No,
that's wonderful. I'm gonna repeat that.
Mason. Let's see. Reload, please. Reload. What are you doing? Okay. Good morning, gentlemen. The sneaky part of my brain wondered how much of a beating Iran will suffer before finally unleashing their hypersonic missiles. I think they proved during their probing strike on Iron Dome that letting Israel and the U.S. burn through their limited arms supply, that patience is the best practice. Yeah, I mean, you learn that when you have 7,000 years of continuous culture, right? Also, why does the American government always imagine that killing a leader will end a war?
I know, right?
Ed, you mentioned the time frame Germany fought beyond Hitler. If Trump was killed today, nothing about our country's day-to-day would change. And somehow we expect other countries to be different. It's a childish mentality.
The New York Times just issued a push notification saying that the Iranian foreign minister says that a new supreme leader will be chosen in the next day or two.